Like, what made you put hands on Drake?
I did not put hands on Drake.
Oh.
And I do not want any problems with Drake. Drake is, right now, that's all I got. That's all I have to say. He's putting in his work. I didn't do nothing to Drake. Drake is my friend.
So that was a total rumor.
So footage of this, based on people that I've spoken to close to the situation, Diddy really did punch Drake in the face.
Oh, I got that call 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I was laying in my bed and my phone kept ringing. I'm like, why my phone keep ringing at 4 o'clock in the morning? So I go to look at my phone and it's my dude, like my dude. And he ain't no just random guy in the club. This is somebody that everybody knows.
Right.
He's like, boy, you wouldn't just believe what happened. I'm like, what? Diddy just slapped Drake.
Back in 2010, when Drake dropped his debut Thank Me Later, he wasn't just another rapper on the come-up. He already had Young Money behind him, Wayne's cosign, and the hype from mixtapes like So Far Gone. But what really made heads turn was that he managed to lock in features with two of the biggest names in rap history, JayZ and Lil Wayne, on the same album. That was a power move, and it showed how much faith the industry had in Drake before he'd even built a full catalog. The track with JayZ, Light Up, became a conversation piece because of Hov's verse. He wasn't just rapping, he was sending what sounded like coded warnings. Jay told Drake to watch the throne, to beware of smiling faces in the industry, and not to trust everyone who claimed to be a friend. At the time, fans took it as a mentor passing down game. But now looking back, people swear those bars were foreshadowing the chaos Drake would later face with Diddy and the industry machine. See, JayZ has always been strategic. He don't just jump on records without purpose. The way he spoke to Drake on that song felt more like advice disguised as a verse. He warned about sharks in the water, people who will smile while plotting, and how the higher you rise, the more snakes you meet. Some fans today point directly at Diddy when they replay those lyrics, saying Hov was already hinting at the drama Drake would eventually have with Puff. And it makes sense. Around that time, Diddy was known for moving funny in the industry. He had power, but he also had a reputation for burning bridges. If you look at JayZ's history, he always managed to keep a careful distance from Puff. They'd link up when it benefited both, but Hov never tied his brand too close. It's like he knew the walls around Diddy would eventually collapse, and he wasn't going to get caught inside. Drake, on the other hand, was still green. He wanted all the cosigns, all the love, all the validation. So while Hov was playing chess, Drake was playing checkers, wide-eyed about being in the same rooms as his idols. That's why Light Up feels different now. Jay wasn't just rapping about haters. He was preparing Drake for the kind of snakes he was about to run into, the type of dudes who would later test him, rob him, or even put hands on him. Fast forward a few years and the very drama Jay warned about came true. In 2014, Drake and Diddy's relationship blew up, allegedly over the beat for 0 to 100. Reports came out that Diddy confronted Drake at a Miami club and even slapped him over the situation. Some insiders even claim Puff was so heated he put a bounty on Drake, telling people in his circle to make his life difficult. That's when fans started saying, yo, maybe JayZ's verse on Light Up wasn't just advice, maybe it was a straight-up prophecy. And looking at how things unfolded, it's hard to argue. Jay had already maneuvered through decades of shady industry politics, from Rockefeller splits to Def Jam boardrooms. He knew the dangers of being tied to someone like Diddy, whose ego and reputation often sparked problems. By dropping those jewels on Drake early, it's almost like Hov was saying, you got the talent, but don't let the wrong alliances take you out before you reach your prime. At the time, it sounded like rap wisdom. Today, it feels like the first chapter in a story that would play out way messier than anyone expected. Because Drake didn't just take the advice and chill, he walked straight into the lion's den.
Sometimes not responding is a response.
Well, you talked about how you found out that they're trying to set up Drake in LA at one point. What exactly was that about?
That was about like him and Diddy were beefing, right? They had a little beef over something in Miami outside of Live.
I think Diddy allegedly to him or something. It was over the Start from the Bottom beat, where I guess it's supposed to go to Diddy and Drake took it and something silly like that.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about Started from the Bottom, I don't know what Diddy would have dealt with that.
By 2014, Drake wasn't the rookie anymore. He was running the charts, headlining tours, and stacking money like no other. But with success came bigger egos clashing, and that's when the tension with Diddy exploded. The story everybody in the industry whispers about is the Miami incident, the night Puff allegedly put hands on Drake. The drama came down to the beat for 0 to 100. Producer Boy Wanda had cooked it up, and both Drake and Diddy wanted it. The way the streets tell it, Puff was originally given the beat first, but he sat on it, never dropping anything. Drake, on the other hand, saw an opening, recorded 0 to 100, and turned it into an anthem. It was one of those records that felt like victory laps every time it came on. Stadium chants, radio domination, the type of track Puff could never have pulled off himself. That's what made it sting. So when Drake pulled up to Miami's Live nightclub, Diddy confronted him. Witnesses say Puff walked straight up and pressed him about the song, claiming it was his. Words were exchanged, tempers flared, and then it happened. Puff allegedly slapped Drake across the face. That moment became instant hip-hop legend, the biggest rapper in the game getting checked in public by an industry OG. But what came after is even crazier. Rumors flew that Puff didn't just slap Drake, he put a bounty on him. Some insiders claim Diddy told his crew to make Drake's life miserable, to apply street pressure so he couldn't just brush it off. Whether the bounty story was exaggerated or not, the energy around Drake got tense real quick. He went from being a global pop rap superstar to suddenly realizing he might have crossed the wrong man. That's when the game comes into the story. At the time, Drake needed more than security. He needed street credibility and protection in LA. And Game was one of the only dudes who could provide that stamp. To repay him, Drake allegedly gave Game the record, 100, and even shot the video in Compton. That wasn't just business. That was Drake showing the world, I got LA behind me, I'm good. But behind the scenes, insiders said Drake was paranoid the whole time, convinced Puff's alleged bounty might catch up to him. Some even claim he was nervous during the Compton shoot, jumping at shadows, thinking somebody was about to pull up on him. The irony is wild. Drake, the artist JayZ once mentored with advice about snakes in the industry, now had to buy protection because of the very trap Hov warned him about. It showed just how deep the politics run. You can be the #1 artist in the world, but if you don't navigate carefully, the wrong cosign or the wrong beef can put your career and even your safety in jeopardy. Puff, of course, later went on The Breakfast Club to clean the whole thing up. He admitted there was tension, but downplayed it like it wasn't serious. That's Puff's playbook. He spins the narrative, makes himself look untouchable, and lets the rumor mill do the dirty work. But the culture didn't forget. To this day, fans still bring up the slap whenever Drake and Diddy's names are mentioned in the same breath. And the wildest part? Some insiders still say the beef wasn't just about a beat. Word on the street is that Cassie, Diddy's longtime girlfriend at the time, played a role too. Allegedly, Puff wasn't just mad about music. He was furious about Drake being a little too friendly with Cassie. If that's true, then the slap wasn't just business, it was personal. Either way, the Miami incident marked a turning point. Drake survived it, but it showed the cracks in his armor. And for JayZ, watching from the sidelines, it probably looked like confirmation of everything he rapped years earlier, that Drake needed to be careful about the circles he moved in. After Miami, the tension between Drake and Diddy never fully disappeared. Puff tried to play it cool publicly, but Drake did what he always does. He turned it into music. That's where 4 p.m. in Calabasas comes in, one of his most underrated but most lethal subliminal records. On the surface, it's just Drake doing what he does best, slick talk over smooth production. But listen closer, and you catch the jabs. Drake mocked Puff's signature ad-lib, take that, flipping it into a punchline. He hinted at old heads trying to stay relevant, men who had power once but lost their grip. To fans, it was obvious. He was clowning Puff without saying his name. It wasn't a direct diss like a battle record, but Drake's specialty has always been the subliminal, saying enough that the streets get the message while still keeping it vague enough to spin later. That track reminded everybody that even if Puff slapped him, Drake wasn't scared to clap back on wax. But here's the catch. Subliminals are safe when your enemy can't rap. Diddy's not gonna hop in the booth and drop bars. That's why Drake could get away with it. Still, the move showed he wasn't letting Puff slide. He was just playing the long game. Meanwhile, Diddy tried to bury the beef. On interviews like The Breakfast Club, he painted it as nothing serious, just a misunderstanding over a song. But insiders say that behind the scenes, he never really forgave Drake for taking 0 to 100. For Puff, it wasn't just about music, it was about pride. He's always seen himself as the shot caller, the gatekeeper, the one people respect. Drake ignoring that and running off with the record bruised his ego in a way that money couldn't fix. And while Puff was spiraling into scandal after scandal, JayZ was playing chess like always. That's the difference between Jay and Puff. Both came up as moguls, both built empires. But Jay understood how to distance himself from dirt. Even though Jay and Puff would link up at events, Jay never tied his Roc Nation brand too close to Puff's antics. He knew where the skeletons were buried, and he wasn't about to let them ruin his empire. That's why people say Jay's verse on Light Up feels prophetic now. He saw Drake stepping into circles with dudes like Puff, and he knew what came with it. Jay survived the streets, survived label wars, survived corporate rooms full of snakes, because he mastered the art of distance. He could party with Puff, but he wasn't gonna let Puff's mess touch his business. Drake didn't have that luxury. He was too hungry for validation at the time, too eager to be embraced by every big name in the game. Fast forward and the contrast is crazy. JayZ is celebrated as hip-hop's first true billionaire mogul, with his reputation mostly intact. Puff, on the other hand, is drowning in lawsuits, scandals, and FBI raids. Drake? He's still standing, but the ghost of that Miami slap and all the subliminals around it keep haunting his image. Fans never forgot, and every time Diddy's name pops up in a scandal, people circle back to Drake, wondering just how deep his ties to Puff really went. In the end, Jay's wisdom wasn't just bars on a song, it was survival tactics. He told Drake to watch for snakes, to move carefully, to protect his throne. But Drake, still young and eager, got caught in the very trap Jay had sidestepped for decades. Now that Diddy's empire is collapsing under lawsuits, raids, and accusations, fans are going back and replaying the history. They're pulling up old footage, old verses, old interviews, and suddenly JayZ's words on Light Up sound less like a rap cameo and more like a prophecy. Hob warned Drake early about smiling snakes and industry traps. Now, with Puff's name tied to scandals left and right, people are asking, did Jay already know how this story was going to play out? That's the thing about Jay. He's always been calculated. He survived the same industry that chewed up and spit out so many others because he knew when to get close and when to keep his distance. He never let Puff's chaos stain his Roc Nation brand. He was cool with Puff in public, but when it came to business, he built his own machine. That's why today, Jay is seen as a billionaire mogul with legacy intact, while Puff looks like a fallen king caught in his own dirt. Drake sits in the middle of this triangle. He's not ruined like Puff, but he's not untouchable like Hob either. The Miami slap, the bounty rumors, the Cassie whispers, they all remind us that Drake had to learn lessons the hard way. He thought he could collect every cosign, stand in every circle, and still keep his crown safe. But in this game, validation comes with strings, and sometimes those strings can choke you. Look at how Drake handled it versus how JayZ handled it. When Puff pressed him, Drake needed protection, leaning on the game, paying dues with the 100 record and the Compton video shoot. Jay never had to do that. Jay built alliances on his terms, not out of fear. That's the difference between moving like a king and moving like a kid who still wants acceptance. And now, every time Puff's scandals hit the headlines, Drake's old ties get dragged back up. Fans remember the slap. They remember the subliminals on 4 p.m. in Calabasas. They remember Puff trying to clean it up on The Breakfast Club. It's a reminder that hip-hop's power plays don't disappear. They echo. At the same time, the Cassie angle keeps resurfacing. If that Miami tension really had to do with Drake showing attention to Puff's longtime girl, then the beef wasn't just about a beat, it was personal. And that lines up with Puff's reputation. Jealous, controlling, always ready to flex power when his pride's on the line. If Jay saw that from the jump, no wonder he warned Drake in that verse. Today, the story feels like 3 different outcomes of hip-hop survival. JayZ played the long game and won, becoming the model for how to escape the traps and build generational wealth. Drake stumbled into the traps but managed to escape with bruises, subliminals, and scars that still follow him. And Diddy? He's the example of what happens when power, ego, and secrets finally catch up. For the culture, this triangle is a lesson. Hip-hop ain't just about bars or hits. It's about politics, survival, and knowing who you align yourself with. Jay taught Drake the rules. Drake ignored them and paid the price. And now Puff is paying the ultimate price as his empire unravels in front of the world. At the end of the day, this story ain't just about a slap in Miami or a subliminal in Calabasas. It's about how three men navigated the same industry with three different results. One became untouchable, one became vulnerable, and one became a cautionary tale. And when you replay JayZ's verse on Light Up Now, it don't sound like rap anymore. It sounds like prophecy.